Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are going to listen to moral story, The Ugly Duckling. Once upon a time in a kingdom not so far away, there was an ugly duckling. The wind howled, a biting north wind that whipped across the reeds of the marsh. Within the shelter of a large burdock leaf, a mother duck sat on her nest. Her feathers ruffled by the cold, but her gaze fixed on the 6 eggs beneath her. 5 were a familiar creamy white, but the 6th was noticeably larger and a dull grayish-brown. She had laid them later than the others, and she worried about it. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the first egg cracked. Tiny yellow fuzzballs, identical and adorable, tumbled out, chirping their happy greetings. One by one, the 5 perfectly formed ducklings emerged, each a testament to their mother's diligent incubation. But the 6th egg, the large gray one, remained stubbornly intact. Days turned into a week. The other ducklings were already swimming gracefully in the pond, their little yellow bodies bobbing like miniature suns. Still, the large egg showed no signs of life. The mother duck, though weary, refused to give up. Her sisters and the other ducks in the marsh clucked disapprovingly, suggesting she abandon the unproductive egg. "It's clearly rotten," they'd quack, or perhaps a turkey's egg. "You're wasting your time." But the mother duck, driven by an instinct she couldn't ignore, simply ruffled her feathers and continued to sit.
Ow.
Then, one blustery morning, a tiny crack appeared in the gray shell. A struggle ensued within, and finally, with a last, desperate push, a large, ungainly creature emerged. It was not yellow and fluffy like its siblings. Its down was a drab gray, its neck disproportionately long, and its beak large and clumsy. The mother duck blinked. Her heart sank slightly. She had never seen such a duckling. Its siblings, who had gathered around, let out a chorus of confused cheeps. "He's so ugly," they chirped, "and so big." Despite her initial dismay, the mother duck's maternal instincts took over. "He's different, yes," she conceded, nudging him gently, "but he is mine." She tried to introduce him to the others, to encourage them to play. But the yellow ducklings, sleek in uniform, shied away from their larger, awkward brother. They nipped at him, pushed him aside, and whispered amongst themselves, "He's not one of us." Life in the duck family became a torment for the ugly duckling. Every day he faced ridicule and exclusion. His own siblings pecked at him, chasing him away from choice morsels of food. The other ducks in the pond, accustomed to the delicate beauty of their kind, would swim away when he approached, their quacks laced with disdain. "Look at that fright," they'd gossip. "He's a disgrace to our pond." Even his mother, though she tried to defend him, eventually grew weary of the constant criticism. Sometimes, in her exasperation, she would snap, "Why must you be so different?" These words, though unintended, stung the ugly duckling more than any nip from his siblings. He longed for acceptance, for a kind glance, a friendly quack, but all he found was scorn. He tried to fit in, to mimic his siblings' graceful movements in the water, but his large feet and long neck made him clumsy and awkward. He would splash and flail, only inviting more laughter. He would try to join their games of chasing dragonflies, but his lumbering gait meant he was always left behind. Loneliness became his constant companion. One particularly harsh morning, after a brutal scolding from an old gander for daring to drink from the same patch of water, the ugly duckling made a decision. Could no longer bear the endless taunts, the constant rejection. He would leave. Under the cover of darkness, with a heavy heart and a belly full of despair, he slipped away from the marsh. He traveled for days, eating what little he could find, always keeping to the shadows. He encountered wild ducks, but they too recoiled from his appearance. He tried to join a flock of geese only to be chased away by their honking aggression. Winter arrived, a cruel and unforgiving season. The ponds froze over, and food became scarce. The ugly duckling, shivering and starving, found temporary shelter in a peasant's cottage. The old woman, kind in her way, took him in, mistaking him for a large, unusual duck. But her cat and hen, jealous of his presence and resentful of his oddness, made his life miserable. They constantly mocked his inability to lay eggs or purr, and he was once again an outsider, an object of ridicule. He longed for the open water, for the freedom of the sky. One day, escaping the incessant torment, he fled the cottage, almost perishing in the harsh winter winds. He spent weeks living in a frozen swamp, huddling against the bitter cold, surviving on what little frozen vegetation he could find. His body was gaunt, his spirit nearly broken. He truly believed he was the ugliest creature in the world, destined to live a life of solitary misery. Then, one glorious morning, the first rays of spring sunshine pierced through the gray clouds. The ice on the pond began to melt, and the air held a promise of warmth and new life. As he stretched his long neck, stiff from the cold, he saw a sight that made his heart leap. Above him, gliding across the shimmering surface of the newly thawed water, were three magnificent birds. Their feathers were dazzling white, their long, elegant necks curved gracefully, and their movements were pure poetry. They were swans. A deep pang of longing, tinged with a familiar sorrow, welled within him. He remembered the stories his mother had told him, of the majestic swans, who sometimes visited their marsh. They were creatures of unparalleled beauty, and he, in his ugliness, could never hope to be like them. Yet drawn by an irresistible force, he waddled towards the water. He was ready to face their scorn, to be driven away once more. As he lowered his head to drink, he caught sight of his reflection in the clear, still water. He froze. It was not the reflection of a clumsy gray duckling. The image staring back at him was of a creature with a long, graceful neck, pure white feathers, and eyes that sparkled with an almost ethereal beauty. He looked at the swans on the water, then back at his reflection. The similarities were undeniable. He stretched his wings, and for the first time, they felt powerful and light. He pushed off from the bank, and with a few effortless strokes, he was gliding across the water, a mirror image of the magnificent swans before him. The swans, noticing his approach, swam towards him. He braced himself for rejection, for the familiar honks of disdain. Instead, they circled him, dipping their elegant heads in greeting, their eyes filled with a welcoming warmth. He heard a little voice, a childish voice, from the bank. Look, a new swan. Children were playing by the water's edge, and their delighted cries confirmed his realization. He was not an ugly duckling, he was a swan. He had simply been born into the wrong family, a beautiful creature mistaken for something less. He joined the other swans, and together they rose into the sky, their powerful wings carrying them effortlessly towards the sun. The bitter memories of rejection and loneliness faded, replaced by a profound sense of belonging and joy. He looked down at the familiar marsh, at the little yellow ducks still dabbling in the reeds, and felt no anger, only a quiet understanding. Moral of the story. The story of the ugly duckling teaches us several profound lessons. True beauty comes from within and often reveals itself over time. What appears ugly or unremarkable on the surface may hide immense beauty and potential. We should not judge others solely on their outward appearance, as their true nature may be far more magnificent than we initially perceive. Embrace your uniqueness. The ugly duckling suffered because he tried to fit in where he didn't belong. His ugliness was simply his difference, and that difference was, in fact, his inherent beauty. We should celebrate our individuality and recognize that our unique qualities are our strengths. Perseverance through adversity. Despite constant rejection, loneliness, and harsh conditions, the ugly duckling endured. His journey was difficult, but he kept going, and eventually he found his true place. This teaches us the importance of resilience and not giving up on ourselves, even when faced with immense challenges. The importance of finding your true community. The ugly duckling only found happiness and acceptance when he found others of his own kind. This highlights the human need for belonging and the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who understand, appreciate, and uplift us for who we truly are. Kindness and empathy. The story implicitly criticizes the unkindness of the other ducks and creatures who mocked and rejected the ugly duckling. It reminds us to be compassionate and understanding towards those who may appear different or struggle to fit in, as we never truly know their journey or their potential. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you soon with another interesting video.